Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get-together live here on Facebook. It is Monday, April 3rd, and I wonder if you had a good weekend. I had an awesome weekend. Well, as awesome as it gets. When you spend your entire weekend cleaning up the house, it felt good to give the apartment a nice little scrub, and I'm very happy that the weekend is over. How was your weekend? Let us know in the comments, of course. And of course, this is our morning get-together where we take a look at headlines from our city, our state, and our country. We read what you're up to. We read your comments, ideas, and suggestions, and we combine all this information so that we can hopefully be better connected in Puerto Vallarta as a community of English-speaking locals. As always, we have all kinds of news and updates from the weekend. But before we do that, an invitation, of course, for you to let us know if you're watching live for the first time. You can just write the word new in your comment. We'll give you a nice little welcome. And if you have something truly important that you wish to share, please add a capital letter Q so that we don't miss it during our comment section. I think we're good. So let's push the button. Okay, so as we mentioned Saturday, while the demonstration outside the Vehicle Verification Center was gaining momentum the day before, Mayor Michel was meeting with the City Council, business as usual, and several initiatives were approved during that meeting. Among them, an article in Puerto Vallarta's commerce laws was modified such that moving forward, any establishment that sells alcoholic beverages should provide sexual health information as it relates to human rights to all customers. In addition, the City Council approved an initiative through which the LGBTQ rainbow flag will now be raised at Parque Hidalgo, Lázaro Cárdenas, and the Pitillal main plaza on three very specific dates: March 31st, May 17, and May 25 of every year. There was another proposal submitted for consideration, but we will talk about this one in a separate news item momentarily. Meanwhile, raise your hand if you avoid yellow cabs because of potentially excessive charges. That would be me. According to Juan Huerta Perez, secretary of the Jalisco CTM or Workers Association, yellow cab fares will be standardized in order to avoid overcharges to consumers. This is no April Fool's Day. This is no Dia de los Inocentes. That's what they said. Apparently, a technical committee was set in place 2 weeks ago to evaluate the service as it stands today. And this is obviously because it is well known that yellow cab drivers often come up with their own fares without any type of standardized guidelines. As is usually the case, there is no information as to how or when this change will take place. Basic rule when taking a yellow cab, we've said this before and we'll say it again, before you get on the cab, you ask ahead of time, how much is it to your destination. That way, once you get there, there are no surprises for anyone. This is the best way to ensure, or at least attempt to prevent, that you get shafted while using a yellow cab. Moving right along, in order to maintain Puerto Vallarta as a safe, orderly destination during the upcoming vacation period, Puerto Vallarta and Bahía de Banderas have begun their joint security and civil protection plan for the upcoming 2 weeks. There's nothing much more to say here other than the fact that the perception of Puerto Vallarta being a safe destination is of paramount importance to Mayor Luis Michel. Which brings us to this point of the verification snafu that happened last weekend. Needless to say, a lot and not a lot has happened. The verification center was reopened and was shut down again. It was clear to everyone that the shutdown on Friday was only a simulation by the local government. Meanwhile, Susana Rodriguez, the local representative for the government of Jalisco, was seen at the verification center throughout the weekend, accusing the Morena political party for instigating the demonstration and stating that the government of Jalisco would not give in to political blackmail. It is worth mentioning that in a separate article, Mayor Michel said that his main concern was that the United States would issue a Freudian slip, a travel warning to Puerto Vallarta if the demonstration continued. And it is also worth mentioning that the Morena party, which was accused for the demonstration to begin with, is the same party as the one our mayor subscribes to. Does it get any more interesting than that? Oh, yes, it does, but not in today's news. This is what we have on this matter. Last but not least, here is the other bit of business that was submitted by the City Council for discussion this past week, and this is actually quite interesting, and it would be the designation of the Isla Río Cuale as a natural protected area. You may recall that recently such an initiative was passed for the Los Arcos natural formation, the rock formation south of Puerto Vallarta. So this new proposal will be moved forward to the Education, Innovation, Science, and Land committees for further study, analysis, and to determine if the proposal moves forward. Now, you're probably wondering, what does it mean exactly that the Isla Río Cuale could become a natural protected area? Well, that is a very good question. As usual, the news article does not provide much analysis or anything, and we'll dive more into this lack of information after the weather break. Let's take a look. Making a Dungeons and Dragons movie that doesn't suck, then releasing it on April Fool's weekend is an S-tier prank. Okay, whatever. I saw the trailer for the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and I decided it was not for me, although you never know. If Logan calls this week and he says, let's go to the movies, I'm inclined to say yes. But who cares? It is 26 Celsius right now. It is 78 Fahrenheit. Humidity is at 61%, and I can feel it in my forehead. And our weather forecast for today says mostly cloudy with a high of 29 and a low of 17. And then tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies throughout the day with a high of 28 and a low of 17. And on Wednesday, clear skies throughout the day with a high of 28 and a low of 17. Now, moving right along, I want to talk a little bit about this issue of the news sometimes not being complete or not being thorough. Yours truly usually scours through some 20-something sources of news every morning and a couple of times during the day, national, state, and local, to make sure that we know what's going on. Do I go out on a regular basis to do research or to interview people, or do I make phone calls? Actually, I don't. I'm not a reporter in that sense of the world. I simply gather the information that I find and share it as timely in a timely fashion as much as I can. And we are certainly not in the habit of holding back information just to do so. And I mention this because our good friend Patrice has asked about this before. Could you please give details of Semana Santa events in Puerto Vallarta? The religious ones, the processions, not the beach parties. There is no way to find anything out in this city. Very frustrating. Well, Patrice, please don't take offense on my reaction to your question. You've brought this up a couple of times before, and the second time that you brought it up, I mentioned essentially what I just mentioned now. We don't hold back on information. We hear you. I hear you on this lack of timeliness when it comes to making information available. But when you say there is no way to find anything out in this city, very frustrating. On the one hand, I hear your frustration, but on the other hand, I did go and snoop your Facebook profile, and your Facebook profile shows that you live here in Puerto Vallarta. You are a local. You're not a traveler or a tourist trying to make plans for this week. So if you are a local, I suppose this is really burning for you because, again, you've mentioned it 3 times. Nothing keeps you from taking a stroll to downtown. I don't know where you live, but if you go to the church and you go to the office of the church, it is the main church of Puerto Vallarta that organizes all the religious events that will take place during Semana Santa. So if this is really burning your noodles or making you feel so frustrated, you have the ability to just get out of the house and take a walk and go to the organizers and ask them yourself. Once again, I vow to, as always, if I see any headlines about this, I will be very, very happy to share the information when I see it. But as far as being able to give details about this, I can't give details about something I don't know. Moving right along, Mexico City Secretary of Culture, yes, posted these images on their Facebook page showing a free dance organized by the government that brought together 80,000 people, that's a shitload of people, to dance the cumbia, a traditional folkloric genre and dance from Colombia that has expanded to the rest of Latin America and is quite popular here in Mexico. The event took place at Mexico City Zócalo, bringing together important cumbia performers. And as you can see, it was absolutely packed. If you have been to Mexico City and have stood on the Zócalo, I am sure you can appreciate the magnitude of this event. Now, why does Mexico insist on all these huge events and why the records and so forth and so on is a mystery to me. But I thought you'd be amused by it. Okay, and now let's take a look at your questions and comments and see what we have this morning. Albert, just come out of your shell and admit that you miss Puerto Vallarta so much that you have to come back sooner than later. And also, Albert, just come out of your shell and admit to yourself that you want to stay near Versailles or something this time around. Seriously, Albert, we miss you. Come back. Let's see what else we have. Look is sending woods, which means we have to invoke
Woot! Almost done.
His husband. Charles says arriving in Puerto Vallarta on May 3rd for 6 days. Excellent. Looking forward to seeing construction progress on our future home. Mazel tov. Let's see what else we have. Doody. Many good mornings, many good mornings. Uh, Brian says we've taken a yellow cab once in a year and a half and we're overcharged significantly. We were a little tipsy and our Spanglish wasn't helpful in negotiating. I hear you, Brian. I avoid the yellow cabs as much as I can, and only in very rare occasions do I use them. And again, I always ask before I get on board how much it's going to be to wherever I am going. Let's see. More good mornings, more good mornings. Heading back to La Peñita on the 11th. I hope the traffic disruptions and protests don't cause delays. The 11th of April, I think by the 11th of April, Kelly, things should be okay. Of course, that also depends on what day of the week that is. But hopefully all this demonstration business will be over by then. Let's see. I saw a new person as I was. There she is. Hello, Candace. Welcome to Coffee and Headlines. Glad to have you around. If you have any questions or comments, we'll be so very happy to take a look at them. Let's see. Suzanne asks, is the John Huston statue still there? It was still there a week and a half ago when I last walked by it on the Isla Río Cuale, and it looked beautiful. I should say that I forget the name of the organization that is looking after the grounds at Isla Río Cuale, but they are doing such a phenomenal job landscaping the island. I know that this is some volunteer organization in conjunction with the city or something to that effect. But if you haven't walked Isla Río Cuale lately, I strongly recommend you do because it's looking absolutely beautiful. Oh, thank you for that, JC. I appreciate that. Again, Candace says, please let person know that she can join PV groups to get info on happenings. You know, Candace, I recommend that only with a grain of salt because, and I mentioned this because you are new to the broadcast. I don't know if you're new to watching live or to watching all together. I am not so keen on some of the Facebook groups, not because they are not good, but because sometimes they are not accurate. So when you suggest people join the PV groups, I second that, but only with the prior knowledge that when information doesn't come from the source, it can be inaccurate. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Let's see. Albert is working on permanent residence. Well, Albert, after I saw your bracelet collection, I mean, you have to spend more time with me. That's all I'm going to say. We don't need to get married anymore, but we need to spend more time together. And let's see what else. Suzanne says Rio Cuale is beautiful. Yes, you totally need to take a stroll. And if you go in the afternoon or evening, the new Indian place, Rico Indian, is a must. I think they only open after 4 or 5 p.m. So it's only good for late lunch or dinner. But it is absolutely wonderful. And that is pretty much where a lot of the new landscaping is taking place. So this brings us to the end of this Monday's Coffee and Headlines. I'm still frantically cleaning the apartment to make way for the internet doctor to visit me this afternoon. And hopefully we will take a look at the setup and make things a little bit more efficient here at Coffee and Headlines as far as the broadcast is concerned. Have an amazing week as we get closer and closer to Semana Santa. If you are in town, brace yourself. The tourists are coming. If you are out of town, count your blessings and come back soon. Have a great day.